I have no idea what they mean. What's up, Coach Kevin? We are live. Is it cold?
Oh, maybe it's just me.
You can turn the heat on.
Nah, it'll be okay.
No?
We'll get warm.
Will it?
I don't know.
Eventually.
Someday.
Brah. Brah.
What'd you do yesterday?
What did I do yesterday? What do you mean? All day?
Did you
Took
do
care of
that?
my wife. That's what I did.
Did you do the YouTubes?
I did like a podcast where I just sat and I took questions and rambled on for like an hour or whatever. It was kind of fun just sitting there and chit-chatting.
Did you get any subscribers to your OnlyFans?
I don't have an OnlyFans, but if I did, yes, I would have lots of subscribers. What is? I've never been to OnlyFans. You said you had an OnlyFans page. What is that?
That's just it's pictures of my butt. It's just pictures of my butt. That's all it is. Just pictures of my butt.
Why isn't it called like Only Butt? Only
Well,
Butt Fans or something?
Because if you
Why would you
if
put your
have-
pictures of your butt? Explain this to me.
if I have an OnlyFans page, it's on OnlyFans.
Like what? But what is? I don't even know what OnlyFans is. Like what is it exactly? Is it like YouTube?
It's like YouTube.
Is there like what is it? Videos? Is it
Yeah.
like MySpace? Like what?
I
what?
think it's like Twitch, but for
Twitch.
Twitch, but for naked people.
Like, but
Yeah.
Twitch is for video games.
Yeah.
Are they like
Yeah,
naked
yeah.
players, naked
Yeah,
people
I
playing
think it's
video
like,
games?
like streamers streaming naked people.
Like themselves?
Yeah.
Why? Do you get paid?
People pay.
Are these like strippers? Is it like a porn thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it has to be though. I don't know. I've never actually been on the site.
You just said you had a webpage.
No, I just have an OnlyFans. I just post pictures.
What's that? What?
I just post. You know, I don't go on there. I just upload, artistic, well-filtered pictures of my butt.
Yeah, but what is it though? Like, is it Twitch for porn? Is it Twitch for porn? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I just didn't want to say the word, but yeah, basically. Like, yeah.
So
People get holed up in their rooms and then they just stream themselves
doing stuff, taking
doing
requests.
stuff. Yeah.
Is that how it is? You just take requests?
I don't know. I've never actually been on the site, but yeah, as far as I know.
I mean,
I just post. You know, I'm an artist. I don't consume what I sell. That'd be ridiculous.
you don't get high on your own supply.
I try not to.
And I don't think I would have that many subscribers if I were on OnlyFans. But you know what? The one thing I've learned in my life is that never underestimate the demand for novelty.
There's a market for it.
There is a market, just like my mother used to say, that every pot has a lid. You know, I think.
Yep.
There's always a niche. There's some niche that you are definitely marketing or catering to.
Oh man. I'm just kidding.
You know, my new favorite. Can we talk about favorite YouTube channels?
Sure.
All right. So we've already talked about. Let's say I've had my YouTube. This is my YouTube thing now. I've gone through Blackpink, and that's because my kids get on my. Sure. All right. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I have no interest in K-pop.
I didn't know we were just allowed to lie on
Look how
YouTube.
nasty my I haven't clipped my toenails in probably 3 weeks because I don't train anymore.
Yeah, I clipped mine today.
Look at my clip. Look at these things. I have like the feet of a harpy.
Anyway,
YouTube. And then I was doing a bunch of like gun videos. I was doing a bunch of like.
That tracks, yeah.
What's that?
That tracks with who I know of you as a person.
And then I was watching Hearthstone videos.
So.
And now I have my new favorite thing, which are ex-prisoner motivational.
Oh, did you get that guy with the
Wes,
tattoo?
Wes,
Yeah,
White or Wes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that guy is
I know.
intense,
It's
but
really,
awesome.
Like,
He's awesome. I don't know anything about him. He might be the worst person on the planet.
He has a very weird personal history. Like I think was part of like a white nationalist gang.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be disappointed if he was not
Like,
part of the white nationalist,
But he
white
has,
supremacist.
He's from what he's read, it seems like he's gotten just into a really like motivation / also like Zen mindset.
Dave Goggins.
Yeah.
But like, if Dave Goggins wasn't Navy SEAL, wasn't white, and went to prison
And had
and
done
just
a lot of
got
math.
what?
And had done a lot of math.
Had that guy done a lot of math?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He looks like he's too big. He's like yoked. He does all his videos. He's like totally his shirt's off, right? And he's like inked up, and he's just swole. Like that dude is. He must work out before he gets on video, and he is just pumped. He's so intense. He's like spitting at the camera, literally spitting.
But you know what I really like about him? Like one thing that I learned from him specifically, I think, was that like at some point during his incarceration, I forget what changed in him, but he was like, I'm done with I'm not gonna do any more drugs. Like I'm gonna work out, and he was still like part of this group that had like really strict rules as far as like how to and he was
Very
like all about like discipline and like self-discipline and rules and like making sure you're never too comfortable. And I really liked his idea that like,
which is easy to do when you are incarcerated.
but the thing is like a lot of the people in prison, like they have an opportunity to be able to like sit with themselves, and that's the thing, like he went through that phase where like he was doing a lot of drugs and he was involved in these activities that like he felt, I think, on some level like he should be participating in, but then
Do you know what he went to jail for?
marijuana distribution, I believe.
Really?
Like heavy, like a lot. But then like.
So he was always an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but eventually he was like, I need to first like master myself, and he went into that's how he's gotten into
What
this
is
whole.
his name is Wes.
Wes something.
Wes.
But the idea that like you can just like be in prison and be okay with it, and in fact be like happier than you were before, and like that's the kind of mindset that I wanted to get into, where it doesn't matter where I am, I can kind of just like sit.
Wes Watson.
Yeah, and not feel like too anxious and stuff.
Prison games, savage inmates. Hold on, this is like an advertisement. Here we go. This is just the opening. Let's see what happens if we try to stream this. Can you guys see that? Hold on.
In the penitentiary, your points, there is a point system that determines what penitentiary you're at, the security level. So I start off level 4, drop to level 3, then drop to level 2.
No, but he's not fired up right now. I want to wait till he gets fired up.
Because of a violent crime, so I could never go below a level 2. Never could go to a fire camp or a
I
level
went through
1
this
yard.
phase on my
So by
YouTube,
the time I had dropped
I think
every
around July.
dirtbag, you have a buddy in there?
But it got my feet into this weird rabbit hole.
Yeah, he's not fired up in this video.
When you
Yeah,
have
but
so
he
much
gets crazy, and I think he's still sober, except for coffee.
Dude, that guy, man, he is like.
Yeah.
I like watching his videos. I gotta tell you, man. I mean, I don't endorse. I don't know anything about him. I don't endorse, but he has a certain, I think, a point of view, a perspective that.
He's well read.
And he is a well-spoken, well-read, and guy doesn't seem like making any excuses or not a lot of filler in there.
It's also nice because he's entertaining. Like
Yeah,
he's
no,
a
dude,
weird
it's
guy.
just him. It's just him sitting in front of like this window. I don't know where he is, probably Miami.
I've seen him like in the park.
But it's just him sitting with his shirt off, always like yoked, and just talking. And he's got like, I don't know. He definitely has a way with words,
Or like his idea about like working out isn't like to get big, but he is big, which is cool, right? But his whole mindset, part of what he talks about is like the point of working out is to do the workout, like to go through that process, the mental process of like, building yourself and doing things that you're not really sure that you're able to do, and just like enduring, and that should be the point of your exercise, instead of like, I'm gonna go and try and get as big as possible. And just like, his approach, he's doing things that I think like, typical like masculine men do. Like he lifts and he's big and he's got like, I don't know, strong points of like how to live, but it's just like a very unique way of going about like the mindset. I think is unique and worth watching and listening to, because he also has some crazy stories from crazy. But
I like the prison how-to, right? And then he gets into the other day. He was talking about how you get big. And it was funny. He was talking about how he learned from a female guard that I guess was supervising him or whatever. And she like directed him to Pavel. I can't say his name. The Russian. I don't know if he's really Russian, but the guy who introduced kettlebells to the United States. And then what was the other thing that he did? He talked about reverse dieting. It was very interesting. I never heard of that term before.
Yeah.
So he was saying in this video that the problem with he's like, you have to, if you want to get big, first you have to like kind of get to the shape you want to be. Like, so you might have to diet. But he's like, you can't just diet and then start eating again.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do this thing called a reverse diet, where what happens is you diet, and then you stop, and then you just start eating normally again. And he's like, you're just going to get fat again. So what you have to do is you have to reintroduce things bit by bit because your metabolism slows down when you stop eating, when you're dieting. So he's like, if you just start pounding on food or calories, you're just gonna get fat again. So he's like, you gotta do the reverse diet, which I've never heard of before, but I thought it was interesting. I looked it up. There seems to be something of a following to it. It works for him. I mean, he looks like he has 0 body fat.
It also works for starving people. If you want to not kill someone who hasn't been eating for a while.
That's right.
Like refeeding syndrome is real.
Yeah. I don't think it's about starvation, but I mean, I thought it was interesting because, you know, he is a thoughtful, articulate person in his own really super aggro way.
Yeah.
You know, he reminds me of Goggins. He reminds me a little bit of Jocko, but he's definitely more about that kind of like mastering yourself mindset.
Yeah.
You know, and
implementing like self-discipline, having rules for himself, and following those rules.
Yep.
Like to the best of his abilities.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really good.
So that's my new YouTube. But I never watch those videos all the way through. I can never watch them. I watch like 2 minutes of them.
I always watch the most standing stuff.
Well, what? Sanding stuff?
Just like background motivation type things. Yeah,
Check him out. He's a scary dude.
it's fun.
Motivational speaker. That was my new thing. What was my other thing that I was doing? I forget. Well, they're having a fight to win this weekend, which is probably going to be good.
Where at?
Miami. I think they're going to do. I think the big one is John Combs versus William Tackett. That's the. You don't know who this is? They're both awesome.
Tackett is in.
Tackett is like the up and comer. Like Combs has been around and he's really good, but I think Combs was. I'm not sure if he qualified for Abu Dhabi or maybe he lost early in Abu Dhabi. I can't remember, but I mean he has a terrible. I mean his bracket is pretty tough in Abu Dhabi.
Do you think you do jiu-jitsu if there weren't competitions?
Yes, for sure. Oh.
Do you think it would be as popular?
Huh?
Do you think it would be as popular?
I don't think you have as many kids doing it if there weren't
Do you think
competition.
competitions are the driving force behind kids jiu-jitsu?
A lot of it.
Interesting.
I mean, if you look at how much these tournaments have grown, a lot of the growth is driven by kids.
Well, it's just, is that because like kids are competing more than adults, or just because there's so many kids and it's so much easier to fit more of them on the mat?
I don't know. I mean, I think that kids are attracted to the shiny gold medals and samurai swords. Like if you told me I could get a samurai sword when I was like 12 years old,
Yeah, how would them?
dude, I would have been at every competition till I got a samurai sword.
Yeah.
Like there's not even like right now I'm still like, oh my god, can I get a samurai sword? Like sign me up.
Yeah.
Would jiu-jitsu be as popular if there? I don't think so. I mean, if they didn't have any competitions, I don't think it would be as popular. Because
Well,
you wouldn't. Because
Well, if it was just like,
people want to have something that they can like compete. You know, like.
well, you can like.
No, but like you want to go over to something and test yourself against some other person that you don't know and who's good and it's a challenge.
Yeah, you can do that. You just go over to
Yeah, but it's
someone
not.
else's
But
gym.
yeah, but.
You used to do that all the time. It's really fun.
Yeah, but that's not competition. That could be worse than competition. Because at least in competition is you getting your ass beat. Eventually the time will run out, or But when you go somewhere and you just roll and it's super, like there's no bell. You're just gonna keep going. So some people aren't gonna be down for that. Some people will, but it won't be as popular.
I mean, most places have bells. I feel like it's the norm to have a round timer at jiu-jitsu place now. I haven't been to a place.
Well, but that's true. But like A, you're not gonna get any medals. And then B, there may be, like, it's unlike in competition, you have a match.
Uh-huh.
If you win the match, you wait 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and then you have another match.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like if you go to another school and it's like, you have roll, right?
That's so much better. That's so much
I'm not
more
saying
jiu-jitsu.
I'm not saying which one's better or not. I'm just saying some people are not going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. No. I think that it wouldn't be as popular because I think maybe it would be harder to kind of distinguish yourself competitively.
But like,
because you'd always be like, is that guy really that good? Like, how do we know? Unless you roll with him, you won't know. Like, I can look at some guys and see their competition record and just say, like, yes, that person is good. Sight unseen, that person is really good at jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
I don't have to take him out for a ride.
So you probably have to use like MMA. Like
No,
if your jiu-jitsu is good, you're gonna do MMA because that's the only place where you can compete and use it. So then
That would be an interesting, like, alternative reality where jiu-jitsu never evolved into or beyond, like, the competitive. Because it always had not always, for a long period of time.
3 points.
It had competitions, right?
Yeah.
They just weren't. They were like in Brazil. They were small.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't well publicized. I mean, I still see matches pop up, like videos from the 80s, the 70s, you know, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Somebody puts up some old footage.
Yeah.
And from
Mundials.
whatever, you know, stuff I've never seen before. It's two like MMA guys, like world famous jiu-jitsu guys. You've never seen them before. Actually, you know, the purple belts,
Yeah.
whatever, blue belts, and you know, but the '80s, nobody even knew. We were still like, Chuck Norris was the man in the '80s, right? And he was awesome, but you know, jiu-jitsu. It would be interesting if jiu-jitsu had kept the sport relatively small and just focused mostly on MMA. If it would be different now.
Because I feel like most people, when they start jiu-jitsu, they're not like, oh, I went and saw IBJJF Worlds and I fell in love with the sport.
Right.
It's like, I was watching MMA and they solved the problem with a choke and I want to learn how to do that.
The reason I think, as I think about it, you know, when you have a group of people that are sort of competitive, right, like doing competitive jiu-jitsu, going to tournaments all the time, there's a team, like a real team element to that, where people are training together, like to get each other better and get each other prepared. If you don't have that, that takes away like kind of a key element of a gym, right? How much bonding, you know, happens when people go away to tournaments or and compete together or train together to get ready for competition. There's a lot of bonding. There's a lot of team building in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that motivates people, and I think it fulfills people. They have a sense of accomplishment. They have a sense of like, even in the accomplishment of their teammates, you know, even if they don't do as well, you know, or maybe they do great, but then they also have a teammate who's doing well, you know, and they take pride in that. You know, they say, hey, I helped that person prepare. And they feel like they're part of that, that success, if you will. And I think that's, you know, that could be that's a way to attract people and keep people motivated in the gym. And if you took that away, I think a lot of people just wouldn't, they'd be missing something. You know, I can tell you from being in gyms where competition, like sports jiu-jitsu, just wasn't a thing. You know, all the energy that you had to be taken out right out there on that mat.
Yeah.
All the competitiveness had to be taken out right there at that mat.
Yeah, isn't that how it always is?
And no. I think in any gym, you might have one or two people that you can just like kind of clash with and you can just go all out with. But in general, you don't do that. I don't see that. I've never seen that.
Hard rolls?
Where people, no, people hard rolls are fine. I mean, competitively, no. There's hard rolls and then there are rolls where like, it's competition rolls. Oh, no, there's like, you can have a hard roll where you still aren't going to hurt the other person.
That doesn't sound like a hard roll to me.
Well, maybe you're not rolling with the right people, right? Because I've had rolls with guys who were much better than me and could tap me out whenever they wanted. And they make it so uncomfortable during the roll, but they're not going to injure me,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it was, or you were even guys who maybe we didn't even like each other, and we're going super hard to see who's going to be the better person that day.
Yeah,
Like we're
that's
super competitive, right? But I still wouldn't snap that guy's. It wasn't like I disliked them. Whereas a competition, competition's competition. If you don't tap, that is on you.
Yeah.
If you're my teammate, I'm not going to try to hurt you. You see, I mean, there's a difference there, right? Like it doesn't matter if so, Kevin. Like if I get you in a heel hook, I'm not going to crank your knee. I'm not. If you do something stupid, I'm going to let you go.
Yeah. So that's
right?
not a hard roll.
No, I mean we can still be rolling. I would have to roll at this point in my life as hard as I can to probably get you into a heel hook, right? But I still wouldn't after that. Working to that point, I still would not crank your knee.
Yeah, and that's not a hard
right?
roll.
No, but it is. I'm rolling hard.
I feel like just because you're suffering doesn't mean that it's
No. But I guess what I'm saying is like you can roll super hard to get to the position where you finish the other person, or whatever that is, and still not have any intention, or I mean, if you're good enough, not if you're both skilled enough, any real chance of hurting each other.
Sure.
Right? Whereas if you are going to a competition, or you're rolling, like you have an example of like going to another gym where you don't know anybody, nobody knows you. In those situations, there's no personal connection that you have with the other person. And if it's in a truly competitive environment where it's like, something competitive is on the line, like you don't really, my first concern is not your safety. My first concern is my safety, right? So I guess that's the distinction I'm drawing. You can have a super hard, aggressive roll. And what I was going to say was there's always a couple guys in the gym who will, if you want to go there, that you can have that kind of roll with them, right? A guy that will hurt you, right? And probably wouldn't get upset if you hurt them. There's always a couple. Well, like there's usually, if you go to get past a certain point of size, but that's not the whole gym.
Oh yeah.
That's not your common everyday thing. Like I remember there would definitely be some of the top guys at Henzo's, they would never roll against, like at least we would never see them competing against or rolling against each other.
Yeah. And
they didn't seem to really like each other very much. And so they just avoided each other.
Yeah.
Those people they wouldn't do it because they didn't want it to go there. Right?
Yeah, well, sometimes
because it would get out of hand, right? Like they will get into a real fight.
Like that it's like if I roll with this person and like maybe a misunderstanding could happen and now we're both.
No, there are people that it's no misunderstanding. Yeah. Like if I won't mention any names, but there are definitely people, right, who will if it's sort of like if they hurt you in the middle of the roll, then that's 100% on you, right? It's 100%. That's their attitude. That's their attitude, right? They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? And they might be super friendly, they might be like, hey, I'm so sorry, or whatever. They may say all that stuff. They might say all the right things, they might be like your best, and they might be super cool off the mat, even. But they are like psycho, animalistic savages when the timer goes. Yeah. And so that sort of thing doesn't happen very often because that is not a sustainable way to run or exist in a gym. That person or that kind of interaction is not healthy over and over and over again because people will get broken.
I think, like you said, if there are multiple people with that attitude and they're able to contain it within those members who find it acceptable, then it's okay.
But those people always hurt somebody or a group of people, or they get injured themselves. It's a non-sustainable way to do jiu-jitsu.
I feel like I'm one of those people.
Maybe you are. I don't.
Because I have training partners where I have Aziz and I have Pete where I've rolled with them enough and we're comfortable enough with each other where it's going to be a hard roll.
Yeah.
And I operate under the assumption that they're going to break my arms if they get the opportunity. And I feel like.
How many times have you broken their arms?
I don't know. Probably 0.
Yeah. How many times have you popped their knees?
Less than 0.
On purpose. Or more than 0. What I'm saying is, you can have a hard roll with people, right? Like you can have it's still not the same thing as having a competition, where that person is, they're going as absolute hard. They will not They will go as hard as they can for as long as they can. They will never give you anything. And now some of them are better than others. Like the really skillful guys.
Yeah.
When you go to competition, they might be rolling super hard, but they're so good. Their technique is so good that they just house you. You know.
I mean, what I like about competition is like it takes away the doubt. Because sometimes when you go to a new place and you roll with a new person, and let's say you do well against them, they're your rank. Like you think you did good, but you don't know if they were trying their hardest.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you go to a competition, like you can roll with strangers and know that they're trying to do their best.
Yeah.
Whereas usually if I go and visit a gym, I'm not going to have hard rolls with people because I haven't rolled with you before. I'm not going to risk your well-being or mine.
Yes.
I'm trying to get to know you and have a good roll. However, if I can roll with people for a long enough period of time that we get to know each other, I feel like that the level, the like competitive level of rolling hardness, right, can be attained as long as like both parties trust each other and they are both willing to accept the potential consequences, right? If you're rolling with a person who doesn't understand these things, then like you shouldn't roll hard with them. But like you can have competitive level rolls at appropriate times and places, and I think that even without competition, like without official competition, I think people would naturally fill the void.
I think it would, like when, and maybe it's all different now. I mean, I don't know. It's a whole different group of people. I'm not sure that the people that are training now would train, or as many of them would train as if it were under the conditions of, 15 years ago.
Probably not.
It's just it's a different environment when it's filled with, MMA fighters. That itself changes the whole complexion of the.
You think it makes it more accessible to people?
No.
Like the broader audience having competition?
Yes. Yes. I don't think having a gym full of MMA guys makes it more accessible. I mean, I didn't have any really negative experience with anybody. I mean, that's not true. Well, with any of the fighters in MMA or at Henzo's because, I was nobody. You know what I mean? I was one of the guys who just wanted to come and learn jiu-jitsu.
You're just happy to be here.
Happy to be here. I wasn't competing with them. I was at best I was like the rest role for these guys. Or if they wanted to try to do something new or whatever. But when they would get into it, wouldn't always be pretty. People wouldn't always come back. People would get really hurt. That was one of the things that like Henzo was famous for, is when somebody gets hurt, he loves to fix them. So if you dislocate something or you separate something, or you like any of that stuff, he'll be like, oh, no, get away. And then he will put that shit back together, right? He'll set if you break a bone, he will set your bone. If you dislocate any body part, like or separate your shoulder, he'll put it back in.
Why?
Because he loves that. He loves it. He's like a little kid at Christmas morning. He just loves that. He's like a doctor, he has this opportunity to like operate on you, and he wants to do it. He's so awesome, It's just sort of like he at this point, if you said if I like separated my shoulder, hurt something, and you were like, Rich, Henzo's here, he can do it right now, or we can like send you to the hospital. I'd be like, let's just have Henzo do it. Because I know that he's done it so many times, and he fucking loves doing it. Excuse my French.
If someone ever told me,
I wouldn't want to like be there for like 6 hours while I have to wait in an emergency room for some doctor to see me and put my shoulder back in
would
place.
you go to a place and for help, and if they told you, don't worry, he's like a doctor, would you accept that help?
But the difference is I know it's Henzo, and I know that he's done this before. That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of type of place.
As long as you know the guy personally, that takes care of the huge gap in medical experience. But he's broken shoulders. Surely he knows how to put it back together. I mean,
But I'm just saying, this is like a different. This is a different. It's a different mindset.
It's like the same guys who just super glue every open gash they have in their head, no matter how big it is, and then they're back on.
Well, when you don't have health insurance, super glue maybe your best option.
Sure.
You
I
know?
mean, and if you
Certainly
don't have
cheapest.
health insurance, Henzo is probably your best option too.
I mean, more than your best. What are you gonna do?
Great.
You're gonna get a big medical bill.
Probably get a bigger one if you're not careful.
But I mean, I wouldn't want him to do like, you know, heart transplant or open heart surgery or
No,
something.
but just like general, like
Putting things back in where they should be is kind of like, it's not actually that far away from taking them out of where they were supposed to be in the first place.
Yeah, it's just, just the human body. It's not complex at all.
I mean, not that part. I
It's
mean,
just-
at some point it's like, this needs to go there, like,
just a bunch of sticks and I don't know, meats put together.
there's a lot of string,
Yeah, it's
some
fine.
tendons, and
It'll grow back together. It's-
eventually, one way or the
The
other.
human body is amazing.
I don't know. I think a whole different group of people came, and a good group. Like, I think it's good. I don't mean to suggest that like, the old way is the better way, and this way is, everyone's this or whatever. I'm not putting a hierarchy. I'm just saying it makes it a lot more like kind of family friendly to have this kind of constructive, wholesome, team building. We can all be. There's a lot of people. In other words, I think if jiu-jitsu had always been MMA based and fight based, right, it wouldn't have attracted all the people that are basically just sport people, right?
But
And those people are awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it would be a different. And then by extension, the people that come and like to be around the sport people because they're nice and friendly, they are also coming because of that, not because they come and Henzo wants to reset their,
Ooh, I have a question.
Yes.
You know why the original premise is flawed?
with whose premise for what?
The original question was like, would jiu-jitsu, like what would happen if jiu-jitsu competition didn't exist, right? But jiu-jitsu comes from judo. There's never not been judo competitions, right? Since judo's been a thing, that's been the whole point is to do judo, like play the game, win things, right? So jiu-jitsu comes from judo. There's always been a competitive aspect
I
to it.
think I don't know what the history of like competitive judo is. I don't know, because you have Shia, right? You have randori, right? You have the practical practice, right? The full contact, full speed practice of judo. The thing is like you're on mats of some quality, more or less good mats, and then you practice your break fall so you don't get hurt too badly. And then at some point they had Shia, which was more like competition / testing, right? Because you get promoted out of a Shia.
Like Kumite kind of? Like,
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I would say that because there's so much full contact sparring in judo, like inherent in the practice of judo, but I wouldn't necessarily say randori is competition.
Yeah, but
You're not getting a medal at the end of it.
But judo competitions have been around since jiu-jitsu's been around.
I mean, I think Shia are based inside of a school. I don't know how many inter-school Shia. I mean, I know there have been tournaments, like where one school was, I guess, another school.
Yeah.
Right? So like, again, I don't know enough, but my sense is that, you had the Kodokan. First you had just Kano going around and challenging different jiu-jitsu schools to matches, right? Or whatever, a group of matches. And then, once Kodokan got founded, I think judo started getting spread around, and then they would have inter-academy matches, right? They didn't have opens. And I don't know when they first started having these open tournaments where it wasn't just like, I have a school, I know the guy down the street, he's got a school, hey, let's just get together and have our own inter-academy. Maybe we get another academy. Maybe we get the 4 academies that are like in this town, and we have like this little inter-school thing.
Yeah.
That's competitive. It's not a tournament per se, right? I would say that's kind of like, my understanding is that's kind of what a Shia is. It could either be inside the school, right, where you have one school has that, where you can have a couple, like a meet.
It's not like an international association.
It's not like people coming from wherever and you just sign them up and you say, hey, what belt are you, and you go.
Yeah.
At some point it developed into that. I'm not sure how. Because, when they had, I was just reading today about this guy who was like this German guy, I forget what his name was. But basically the story was that he was like the German catch wrestling champion. And he had this big rivalry with judo because judo at that time was going, you know, they were sending representatives and emissaries throughout the world, spreading judo, and saying, you know, and so they would meet up. You know, he'd meet up with these Japanese judo players from the Kodokan, and you know, he would. I mean, there were stories where basically, I don't know if it's true. This is the first time I've ever heard of him. You know, he would just like slam these guys onto the mat, and they would, you know, pass out. But they would do, you know, best 2 out of 3, best 3 out of 4 falls. So it's like, you know, he slams you in consciousness, give you about 10 minutes to get better, and then you have to do it again. And some of these guys' stories are like they got knocked out the first time, then they come back and they beat him, you know, and so it goes on. It sounds like he won more than he lost, and he was a total beast. But these were kind of like matches.
Yeah,
these were fights.
Like exhibition matches.
These were, but they were, like, I mean, not exhibitions in fake, but
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these were title fights.
Yes.
Is what they were. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there was like it was like a card, like, because catch wrestling was very popular. You know, you go to a festival or fair, and it would be like, you know, who can last for 2 minutes, we'll give you $10, which is a lot of money. So I don't know, I mean, it seemed to me that a lot of the judo outside of Japan was mostly like that type of situation.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, they went over to Brazil, and Kano and some of the other people started, you know, creating their schools, right? Like founding their schools.
Yeah.
At what point did the schools, you know, form a federation and start having, you know, the mundials? You know, I don't know. But sport jiu-jitsu has been around a long time.
Did you ever go to the Gracie School in Irvine?
No.
Like the original one? I went.
Torrance, you mean?
Torrance, yeah.
Yes, no, I never went. I had a lot of friends who went there, but I never went there.
They have a museum.
Yes.
Right, and they like have all these articles from like the first couple matches, and like they have the pictures from like the Kimura match and everything, and I can't remember if I read this while I was there or I read it after the fact, but like from my understanding, they like wanted to do exhibition matches showing off judo and like promoting the school, but I guess they didn't get the go ahead from like the people back home to use the judo name. So then that's when they started calling it jiu-jitsu.
Huh.
And then I think from there, that's where the name rolled. But it all started, I think, from just like exhibition matches, almost like pro wrestling style.
Yeah.
Where you get a big ring and it's like, you know, it's not like fixed, but it's like an event, it's wild, it's crazy, it's like, you know, it's not just a fight, it's a show.
Yeah. And some of this stuff was works, right? Like some of it was fake.
Yeah. But then you get like the events where it's like, you know, the East meets West type thing where it's like.
But it's hard to see, like look back at this stuff and be like, was that real? Do we know? Or was it all a scam?
I mean, Kimura broke Helio's arm, so I feel like that's an indicator.
I mean, look at today's wrestling though. I mean, you have a lot of instances in today's wrestling, in modern, you know, where people do get seriously injured.
Yeah, but like
that.
Helio didn't jump off, you know, the top of a cage in Hell in a Cell. You know,
I don't know. You know, there's a story. I think one of the stories with Maeda was that he pissed somebody off, and the guy like beat the hell out of him for, you know, like in the middle of a match that was supposed to be a work. You know, I don't know if it was Maeda or somebody else, but it was, you know, it was like one of these things where it's supposed to be a friendly thing, and then somebody does something that isn't kind of with that script.
Yeah.
Or maybe you do something poorly and you piss the guy off.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's really hitting you.
Yeah.
And really kicking you. You know what I mean?
Well, what I thought it was Kimura was throwing Helio like a lot.
Yeah.
And then the mats were too soft, so it was like, all right, like throw it.
I mean,
and then
look,
break his
here's
arm.
the thing. I don't know if there is a mat that's soft enough that if somebody like Kimura was throwing you as hard as he possibly could, that you would be like, oh yeah, these mats are soft, I can take this.
I think, yeah. I think if like you're used to tatami and then you get like jiu-jitsu mats, like it's going to be really different. Like, because I think his original strategy was, I'm going to murder this person.
You know, the only thing I would say is that when you're on an elevated ring, I've heard this, there's a lot of bounce in there.
Yeah.
So, still, I don't know, you know, like, I mean, if you think that Kimura was like the best of the best, and if you look at his pictures, like he looks like he's a pretty stout individual. I would not want to take, and no matter what, if you just said like, okay, all you have to do, Rich, is just take his, you know, like we'll tire him out. You're gonna let him throw you too much, but this was spring loaded. It's okay. I don't know that I'd be down for that. I don't think it would really help you.
you know? I'm not saying it was a fake match, because you're right, he did get his arm broken. But I don't know, I'm talking about a lot of the other matches.
Yeah.
You know, like these legendary matches where so-and-so won all these, you know. That was the cool thing about
The Hickson
UFC.
Hickson story.
Which
How
one's
many matches did he supposedly win?
over 400.
Over 400. Okay.
I mean, I don't disbelieve that. I don't disbelieve it. I mean, if you count like every turn, because he did do sport jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
right? Like, so if you counted, like Ryan Hall as a purple belt had over 300 wins.
Sure.
I think by triangle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was just that good, and there were a lot of matches. So Hickson could have. I mean, if he started counting when he was a blue belt,
I don't know.
I would love to see Hickson as a blue belt. You know.
It'd be weird.
And given the it was almost impossible to gain the knowledge. You know what I mean? Like now, if you want to learn what somebody's doing, it's very easy to find it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, more. I mean, you get the broad, and even some of them was detailed. You know, detailed explanations. But like, even 20 years ago, if you wanted to figure, like, what was that? You didn't know. You're like, what was he doing with his leg there? You know, like, you don't know.
Yeah, you had to ship.
So like in 1970, you know, when Hickson was like a purple belt or whatever, I don't know, maybe he really was just killing everybody. And I think they did have a lot of like intra-family matches where he like, I mean, look, if he's off beating like Carlson Gracie when Carlson was a champion, you know, like, I'll count that match, right? I mean, if you're having, even if it's inter-school matches,
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to count those, I'm sure he had some, I'm sure those were hard rolls, you know?
They also said that like Helio had, like no one ever tapped Helio, right? Like even Kimura never tapped him. They never submitted him.
Right.
He got his arm broken and they threw the towel for him. But then like, you know, you hear that like Helio's never been tapped, Helio's never been tapped. And then you see old videos of them rolling with Helio, like when he's a super old man.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, Helio's never been tapped, but you're also like treating him like he's Helio Gracie as a very old man.
Yeah.
You're not gonna like, you're not gonna take his head off. Like you don't want to get shot outside of your academy after class. Like, so then
I mean,
you got
I
Hickson
think
here.
in real competition, right, I think maybe that is true, right? But like, you're right, when he's 80 years old and you see Henner, his grandson,
Not tapping him.
not
because
tapping
of
him because,
flawless technique and not
I mean,
because.
yeah, it's PR, right? But I mean, I don't think he, you know who else has never been tapped in competition?
Literally everyone who's never trained before.
Well,
Or
I mean,
competed.
a real person.
Um,
There's like one guy who's never been tapped in competition.
I knew a guy who was like proud of that, but I don't think he sustained it. I don't know who you're talking about.
Hodger Gracie. Hodger Gracie has never been tapped in competition.
But he's lost.
He's lost. He lost by points a couple times to Shanji.
Yeah.
By like 2 points.
Yeah.
Or advantage or whatever. And he lost to John Inamo at Abu Dhabi. In his, I think his first Abu Dhabi. He lost to Inamo, who was a total monster. But he's never been, and he's been in deep trouble, right? He's against some of the best guys in the world. But my point with that is like, I always wondered, has Hodger really never been tapped since he was a blue belt? I think.
Does that mean in competition or at the academy? What's the assertion?
Well, it's provable
Yes.
that he's never been tapped in competition.
Yeah. So we're talking
My
about.
question is,
Yeah.
has he been tapped in training?
I mean, people.
Ever?
You hear from
Since he's a blue belt?
for like all these like really high-ranking like jiu-jitsu famous people, like you should put yourself into positions where you're tapping and in sparring and you're tapping at your academy and you're not just always winning, but I do wonder if like does Galval tap to people all the time? Does Hodger tap like? You think?
I mean, the thing is like there are situations. I mean, the last time I remember Galval tapping, and maybe there may be more, was when Braulio reverse triangled.
Yes.
That's the last time I remember. Braulio is one of the best ever, right? I mean not the best ever, but he's
Probably.
exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best, top 20, whatever guys. Maybe I don't know. Hodger has had his arm fully fully extended. I mean, Hodger has had his back taken. You know, Hodger has been in deep, deep trouble against some of the best guys in the world, and he has never been tapped. I mean, if Sanjay Rivera can't tap you when he's got your back, right? When Buchecha can't tap you when your arm is fully extended, I mean, who in Hodger's academy is going to be better than Buchecha?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I could see that he might let you tap him, right? Like, you know, there's a situation like John Danaher's let me tap him, right? I've gotten him to tap because he's literally he's showing me a technique, and he's like, okay, you want to put it here, okay, and then he'll tap, right? But he's literally letting me tap him. I'm not doing, like, I would never normally been in that position. He's allowing to teach me. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, you're having a hard roll with Galvao or with Hodger, you know. What are the chances that you're going to tap these guys? Like, even if you're really good, they've gotten out of so much stuff from the best guys in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's got to be. What do you think? Do you really think that, like, Andre Galvao gets tapped in his own gym by anybody? I think.
Honestly,
I would kind of hope yes, but
Just
I don't
by-
know. I wouldn't be surprised. No.
just based on how big Atos is, and honestly, like, he's a good coach, so, like, because it's one thing to be rolling with someone and they catch you, but then, like, it's another thing if you don't want them to catch you at all. Because, like, you could be a coach where you want to have hard rolls and you want to, like, reward people when they get something, and, like, it's a legitimate thing, they did well, but then there's also the option to, like, fight to the death.
Yeah.
You know, and I doubt that Galvao is fighting to the death.
I mean, I was gonna say like Hulk is a guy who's super strong, but is not really known for being super technical.
Yeah.
Whereas Andre Galvao is super technical and super strong. But then I was thinking Kanan, who is super big, super strong, super good, super technical.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would love to be a fly on the wall when Andre and
But
Kanan.
that's the thing, like, you can never tell if, even if you do see a tap happen, you can never be sure that it's legitimate. And
I think if you're the flying, I mean, I don't think Andre Galvao is letting Kanan tap him.
Yeah, but it's still, like, you don't know if he entered into the entanglement, like, purely from a winning perspective. You know, like, you don't know.
Yeah,
Because
I get it.
in order for it to be legitimate, it has to be legitimate from the start to finish.
From yes.
And
I'm sure that they've had. I'm sure that Andre Galvao has never just like given Kanan. Maybe when Kanan was a kid,
maybe,
but like once he got his. I mean, now you see how good he is.
I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Kanan could tap him.
It'd
I
be-
mean, he just made Padolfo
Yeah.
look.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. It's very. I feel
I
like
was shocked. I was like, man, I have no respect for Kanan Duarte.
I feel like it's almost taboo to speculate.
Why?
I think
I don't think there's any shame in like. You would hope
it
that.
is one thing you're not allowed to talk about if, like, you're on their team.
Yeah, if you're in the gym, right? If you're Kanan, you shouldn't come out and be like, yeah, I tapped Andre a couple times last, you know, like,
And
no,
should-
that's, you
if
don't
you're
do that.
if you're part of Atos, you probably shouldn't be like, do you think Kanan can tap Andre? Like, Andre, what do you think? Did he get you yet?
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, the people used to say, you know, could Gary tap John, and could Gordon tap John? I mean, now I don't think Gordon would need to tap John because I think John would probably get injured before the end of the match, you know, because Gordon's so big. In John's heyday, there were very few people who could tap him. Very few. You know, there were very few people who could pass his guard.
Do you let people tap you?
Hmm?
Do you let people tap you?
Only you.
Very good. Thanks.
No.
Like, do you have the same tapping threshold for everyone at the academy, or is
No.
it differ? It differs, right?
I think because when you roll with somebody good, especially if they're better than you, you know when you are exposed, right, that they can't break your arm. Right, they're good enough. They have enough, you know,
Yeah.
skill that there's a certain point where if you try to do something silly, or even they're so good that you can't even do anything silly. Whereas if they're lower lower level, not as skillful, you can mess with them a little bit, right? Because they don't know, they don't even know what they're actually doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
there's no imminent threat.
it's kind of like, you know, they get on something. Sometimes they'll get on something, and then you'll be like, oh man, this is. But if you just kind of hang out there, you can kind of bluff them sometimes, or you can kind of do something unconventional, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, just throw them off.
Yeah, you could just get up. Like I was watching the Conor McGregor, Max Holloway fight. They had a UFC. It was a 3-round fight, whatever. And Conor McGregor was mounted on top of Max Holloway multiple times. And Holloway would do this thing where he would bump up, kind of like bridge from the full mount, right, and have his arm like this, right, just hanging out there. Like any, I think, decent jiu-jitsu person, certainly, would either have arm locked him or reverse triangled him like that. That would have been the end. Now he's probably pretty good himself, and he's very explosive, and he would get out again and again for doing that.
Yeah.
If you did that against any, like if you went to fight to win, if you did that to anybody in the last like 10 or 12 matches, they would all break your arm.
Is Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu really that bad?
I'm not saying it's bad.
I thought
I'm
it was
just
like a purple belt.
look. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. His jiu-jitsu is good for the. I'm sure it's really hard to take him down. I'm sure it's really hard to keep him down.
Yeah.
You know, he's a phenomenal athlete, and there's a level of athleticism that you can't teach always, and that allows people to kind of explode out of things and do some funky things, even when you think you have them dead to rights.
Yeah.
But I mean, Holloway did this like 2 or 3 times. It was not at the first time you're like, oh, maybe you could, and they're slippery. Like I'm not saying he sucks, I'm not. But it's just one of those things where you're like, you wouldn't do that against a real, like an elite level.
I don't know, there are some things where like, there are reasons that people don't do them, but maybe the person doesn't know the reasons, and you can tell.
No,
you know?
I mean, all I'm saying is like, you can do that against somebody.
Yeah.
You can do it against anybody once. Like, you do something really crazy dumb once to anybody, and you might get away with it. If they're good, and you do it a second time, they're be ready for you.
I feel like if you're good, you can do dumb things the second time.
Yes. That's the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
That's the other side of it. You can let people get out of things,
Yeah.
only to put them in worse things.
Well,
That was John's favorite thing. John would let you get out of stuff,
You have
and
to
then put
let
you in worse things.
you have to let people out to figure out where they go.
Yeah. No, I'm not. That's not a.
Yeah.
But the question is like, the question was, do you have a different threshold for tapping? Yeah, for you, you know, different than from a blue belt.
I do find it easier to tap to white belts than brown belts. Like, if a white belt catches me, I'm like, yeah, good job, like, great.
You tap him, good job.
Yeah, like, you did great, that was good. And then, but like, if you're a brown belt,
How many white belt caught you?
Couple?
No. For real? No.
Yeah,
No.
why not?
When you were a white belt?
No, like, I just do something and it didn't work, and then they do something that works, and then it's fine. Like, I don't know, you gotta experiment every once in a while. Everyone says leave their ego at the door, and then they give me that look when I actually say.
No, I think that's true. I think there was, when I was it was Taiwan, I was rolling with some white belt and I was visiting, and I let the guy tap me out like 20 times.
Yeah,
I mean, but I wasn't actually doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of.
It wasn't a competition, if that's
No.
what you're saying. Yeah.
No,
I mean, if I met that white belt at a tournament, I probably would beat his ass. But, we were training, and
Yeah, no, you're just having fun.
yeah, it's
No,
fine.
that's fine. Yeah, but you're not having fun with the brown belt, because the brown belt wants to kill you.
No, I'm gonna have fun with the brown belt too. I'm just not gonna let them get as far into anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they're probably gonna do things that I'm more. Sometimes white belts do things completely unexpected,
That's true.
and then they're just holding onto your neck real hard. It's like,
Squeezing your face. Yes, that's true.
nah, it's still
I
embarrassing.
mean, there's some white belts that are very good athletes. You know, they come in. Jason Khalipa was not your average white belt.
No,
You had to treat him a lot differently.
It was
than-
so fun. It was a good time. Yeah, like I used to go up to Stanford and teach like twice a week.
You get a lot of different people in there. Some really good people come walk in the door.
It was fun.
It was always interesting up there, because you never knew who was going to come by and check out the class.
Well, it's interesting, like, what will some of the smartest people in the world do when they encounter the jiu-jitsu problem and they don't know jiu-jitsu? And they come up with a lot of interesting stuff. Like, they're just overall attitude, it's just fun to roll with them, and just their approach to things is usually methodical and well structured. But I think I mentioned this last time. Like I really like the engineer's approach to things, where it's like they give you like really concrete, like this because this because this because this, you do this, and if you do this,
Very
then you do
mechanistic.
this. Yeah, where it's like you're a robot.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because at that phase you're trying to become this jiu-jitsu robot where you can just like do jiu-jitsu. And they're the Stanford people are like really respond well to this type of thought, but I'm kind of getting away from it because it's like it dissatisfies me immensely. Where like I don't like describing it in like mathematical terms as much. I feel like we're overusing numbers that don't actually mean anything. We're just trying to like
Sound scientific.
yes, we're trying to sound more knowledgeable than we actually are. Not that like this stuff doesn't work because of mechanics and physics and all that, but like the reason that I know things work has nothing to do with I haven't done any like structural testing or I haven't checked the force vectors on my arm bars. Like I don't know.
You'd be a lot better if you did.
Maybe but the issue is also like there's so much information going on in even just a single jiu-jitsu move or a roll. Like you can never ever like truly scientifically understand what's happening. So like instead I'm really enjoying like just vague ideas of like not trying to super duper concretely define what's going on, but just kind of exists in the vague, blurry part of jiu-jitsu. Because I feel like every time
I think when people, this is like the thing with the flow charts. Everyone wants to have a flow chart.
Yeah.
Right? And jiu-jitsu is not a flow chart. I don't know why.
It can be.
But not good.
It's not only a flow chart. The map is not the
at
territory.
its most, I think it's most, when people first come to jiu-jitsu and they want to learn like what is happening.
Yes.
Like, and you want to have some sort of description, and by describing an understanding of all the sort of complexity that is part of that dynamic, of rolling or competing with somebody wrestling. That is something that's very comforting to you. But all the top people, they talk about flow, and they talk about mentality, and they talk about creativity. There's nobody that I've seen at a high level that I can think of off the top of my head who is like that jiu-jitsu robot. Who just comes out and does the same thing to everybody, just kind of like, Terminator style, I must always get Kimura. Nobody does that. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
And nobody does it, even if you do get Kimuras all day long, you do it different ways with different finishes and different. There's an element of improvisation and creativity that goes into those things that make people. That's. When I think about jiu-jitsu, like earlier jiu-jitsu, when everyone wanted to know the secret moves, like what is the move, like what is the counter to this thing, or what is the the recounter, or what is you always think of mechanistically, you think of like, how do I counter this move, or how do I prevent it, or how do I, whatever it is, But as time goes on, it's a lot less about specifics like that, and what happens is you start seeing people take things that maybe you didn't appreciate, like little parts of jiu-jitsu, and then like expand on that little part, right? Kimura, when I started, Kimura was just a Kimura. It was one of many, many submissions that you can do. And now Kimura, I would say there was almost in every kind of DVD series or instructional series, there'd be like, okay, the Kimura, from side control, okay? And that's how you would learn the Kimura. Or from the guard. You'd learn two Kimuras, one from the guard and one from side control. Those were the two, right? And now we have, I don't know how many instructional series that are dedicated to just the Kimura. Or entire volumes that are just Kimura. And like there are a lot of different.
Do you know about the Mandelbrot set?
The idea of like the fractals.
Yeah. Where like if you zoom in closer and closer to the edge, it just expands, and there's like you can go deeper and deeper and deeper.
But there's some sort of mathematical order. Or it keeps reiterating.
Yeah, but the idea is like, just like with jiu-jitsu, you can get into the finer and finer details, and there's always just another detail that you could be aware of and add to it that has value to it. Where Whereas like,
well, this is more, I think of like, it's kind of the same, right? It's kind of like you're going even deeper, you know, like, you know, you can go and get the Kimura, you know, Enter the System, John, you know, 8 DVD set or 8 volume set of, you know, him on the Kimura. And in it, he'll show you all the different entries, ways to use it for passing, ways to use it to finish from all these different positions, ways to, you know, use it as a transitional thing, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And that's, you know, it's both, and he'll spend an hour just on the position, like where should your hands, where should their elbows, their head. So there's like this micro, you know, should you have your hands like this? What about this? What if you have it like that? You know, like, should you do this? I mean, it all, you know, can you turn the wrist? Can you, you know, whatever it is. You know, what if it's here? What if it's here? And there might be 3 different things you do in each situation. What if they have the hands together? What, you know, whatever. And you could spend all that time just on the micro elements, and then you can say, well, yeah, we can use this for takedowns, and we can use it for whatever. So it's like this expanding thing too. It's the same thing with like Berimbolo. Berimbolo, to me, when it first came out, was like, it was a sweep, right? You would sweep, you have De La Riva, and you would sweep,
and then come up into like that.
and you would take your back, or you come up on the mount, or cross side, or whatever it was, and that was it. Right? And now it's like this, it's evolved into like crab riding, you know, where it's like a whole other thing in there, and now it's not just a way to take somebody's back or whatever. It's an actual way to like not pass somebody's guard, but still get it. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, this person, I'm not going to pass their guard. I'm going to go underneath and around them.
I'm going to dive into their butt crack.
Right?
First.
But
strategy.
this used to be like, a couple guys did it, and we were all like, what is that? That would never work. You know? And now it's like, if you don't see somebody doing Berimbolo, you're like, they suck. You know? I mean, especially at the lighter classes.
There was, though, like a definite cultural shift, I think, when the Berimbolo came out. Like stuff like that, where it's like, all right, we're definitely like, we're no longer thinking of self-defense at all. It is no longer.
Some of them were though. Like Ryan Hall was still self-defense. Like it was, you know.
Was he Berimboloing? I didn't know he was Berimboloing.
Yeah, he would do all that stuff.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
he was
good.
more Noki, and I think he kind of disappeared for a little bit. I don't know what he was doing, but
I don't know. I
building
was pictured
school.
as a triangle omoplata guy in the gi instead of a Berimbolo.
He was a big 50-50 guy, huge 50-50.
Yeah, not
Very like that's when like 50 people hated 50-50.
Yeah.
Now 50-50 is everywhere. There's no real, I don't know if there's any real 50-50 instructional that I've seen.
Ryan Hall.
Well, but other than Ryan Hall, right? Even though it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Well, I think once he dropped his, like, there's nothing anyone else.
Well, but
had
he
anything
did
left to
his
say.
no gi.
Yeah.
He didn't do a gi.
Yeah, but like, who wants to sit and watch a gi instruction?
Well, everybody who wants to compete at a high level, because if you're competing in the lightweight division,
even still,
you are going to be in a 50-50.
Even so, I feel like I don't know. I wouldn't watch a gi.
Nobody what? No.
Like unless like it was a specific problem that I'm encountering. Like I've been beaten at
Here's
tournaments.
the and also deep half guard. He was super into deep. He was known for his deep half guard.
But Jeff Glover's got deep half.
No, I'm not saying he was better or whatever, but like Ryan Hall was one of the guys who did a lot of deep half, and the people would say the same thing, like, oh, jiu-jitsu has changed, this is garbage, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, he addresses that, and he has this new thing, modern.
I think that was part of the reason why he went to MMA too, wasn't it? Like
To show that his stuff actually works in a real fight.
yeah.
Probably. So, you know, his whole thing is like, you don't hang out there. That would be dumb. You go to something else. You either go to the back, or you come back up and you come over to like a single leg. You don't just sit there with your, it's not a sport jiu-jitsu. No, from deep half guard.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, the beautiful thing about the attraction of deep half guard and 50-50 is that if you're in the gym, if you can get to those positions, you can give your training partner, no matter how good they are, or how much better they are than you, fits. Especially if they don't know what you're doing, right? So, like, I remember a lot of times where people would put me 50-50 and I'd be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right? And they would just, And I'd be like, I don't even know why you would be here. Why would you do this?
It doesn't make sense in the league. Like
But
without tournaments, 50-50 would not be a thing. Like for Nogi, yes. Nogi 50-50 has a great deal of value, right? There's that inside heel hook.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Crossover, all sorts of stuff. But
if I could look, if I could like flash backwards to 1990 or 2001, right? I mean 1999, 98.
Why not 2001?
I'm just going back. I'm trying to think like when it came out, which was probably like when it was like 2005, 2006. I'm trying to think.
Like, talking about deep half or
deep half, 50-50, like where that started. Whatever.
Yeah.
I always thought Glover is more of like a Darce guy, but whatever. Anyway, if I could get like a guy who's a lot better than me, 50-50 and give them fits, tie them up.
Oh yeah.
Gi or no gi.
It's the great equalizer.
I would have been doing it.
It is the great equalizer. If you have a blue belt versus a black belt who doesn't do 50-50 and the blue belt does, that will.
It's a pain in the ass.
That will get that blue belt up
it
to
will,
that potential.
It will. I mean, John actually just did a post on this about like negating or neutralizing athletic superiority.
Yeah.
And that is a good one. Or even size, right? Even size. If you can tie somebody up in a 50-50, even if they're a lot bigger than you, they're not going anywhere, right? They're not passing by definition, right? And so, and even if they're a really super athletic guy, can jump around and do all the passing, Toriano passing. Like that's now I'm stuck with your legs locked around my leg.
It's not immediately obvious how to disentangle the problem. Like everyone always like the first
Now,
step
now it's like everyone's just.
Well, everyone does it.
You just take your back.
But
You just do a roll and you take your back.
I don't know. Yeah, because the first time that I kept getting stuck in, I was just like trying to sit up into it, just like
Just muscle your way
like,
through.
and just eat your knee and just like just drive in and maybe get a triangle out of it if I was lucky, but nothing useful or effective. But then, like it has become more of a thing.
It's kind of like
when did it become a thing?
like lasso guard. Like lasso guard's another one of those things that you're just like, this is only working, or any kind of lapel guard where you're just like, this is only, you are like totally gaming the fact that I'm wearing a gi.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is why people don't want to do the gi anymore.
Yeah.
Because of stuff, not just because of lasso guard, which is a giant pain in the ass. I guess somebody who's good with it.
Yeah.
But also the fact that I can't heel hook you when you put me into a 50-50. Right?
I also don't like that I have to give myself arthritis in order to play legitimate jiu-jitsu.
What do you mean legitimate pose?
Like stuff where you grab the sleeves and stuff and you're like spidering things.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't want. I mean, not that my hands aren't messed up to some degree, but like it's just like it hurts. It hurts.
Unpleasant.
It's not worth it. It's just. No, I guess it works for some people, but it's just like not. It just hurts. It hurts so much. I don't like.
You know why there's lasso guard? You know why that exists? Because people's guards suck. That's why.
Lasso. What was lasso? Is all this stuff off of De La Hiva? Reverse De La Hiva?
No, you can do lasso. You can just do a straight lasso guard. But there's
Yeah,
usually a lasso
It's
slash
lasso spider.
spider.
Yeah.
You can have lasso if your legs are long enough. You can do lasso single leg X or not single leg X,
Lasso.
but X. Lasso X.
Lasso Hiva.
Because that's
De La Lasso.
Leandro Lowe did a lot of lasso and Tinico.
I really like just the guys who are able to lasso you up and then connect like your top left shoulder to your bottom right knee with their legs, and then they're like,
then you just do a roll.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool.
It's cool, but like it's just I don't know. It's annoying. It's annoying to pass. It's fun to do, but it's also I don't do it unless someone gives me the option, like, here, Kevin, set up your grips. And I'm there, I'm like, this hurts. And then I give up and I do the pistol grip and I move on with my life, and it's just a worse grip. So if people really want to break it, they can.
All right, I gotta get out of here because my wife probably needs some medication.
This is why I do Kimuras.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.
You can Kimura naked people.
You do that on your OnlyFans. All right.